All right. Oh yeah, we have more people joining. Fantastic. Let me just quickly admit people. Nalini, I'm. Oh, okay. There's more people named Nalini.
But this looks like some sort of AI, no?
Yeah, I don't know what this is. Hello, are you an actual person? Nalini's note taker.
Hmm. I don't. Maybe it's something that Google basically.
Okay, well, invited here to record and take notes. We are recording this already anyway, so we will not be welcoming this, I'm afraid. And if you would like to take notes, then we invite you to watch the live stream later on. Oh, sorry, live stream or the recording later on. So I will be removing those from the call. And if you would obviously like to join and actually partake in the discussion, you're very welcome to. I've got another few people signed up, so I think we'll leave them a few minutes to show up. Maybe there's some link confusion as well. But according to my calendar, there is another 2 people who have accepted, and Nalini is one of them. So
It must be something that Google just introduced randomly.
yeah, interesting, right? I didn't know that you can like add a note taker without actually joining yourself as well. Interesting. I thought it needs to be you join and then you add the note taker or something. But hey, not the first time I wouldn't be up to date with technology. Okay. Do you know of anyone else who was planning to join?
No.
All right, let me just quickly see if we are live on the channel as well. Okay, fantastic. Oh, Hassel, we're missing you now. If you would like to
I'm
join
back.
after all, you are very welcome to. If you're watching the live stream. Mm, mm. Yeah, I actually also started posting shorts from the videos that we have recorded last time. So I always have a bit of a delay. So if you are interested, tune in on Instagram or where else am I posting it? TikTok. So I'll make sure to tag you again, Alex, so you can
Yes, please.
share it as well. And likewise on YouTube. So that will be happening. All right, well, I guess let's wait another minute. If we're not having anyone, then we'll just chat ourselves and we'll see how that is developing. It might also be that pre-Christmas everybody has better things to do, realistically speaking. Let me just quickly see if nobody is writing me about this as well. I got an email from Nalini sharing a conversation with me as well. I don't understand how this works. Do you know anything about this?
I have no idea. This is the first time I'm seeing it.
Interesting.
It's an AI note taker, it seems, but is it part of something that Google automatically puts with their meetings, or what's going on? I don't know.
I have no idea.
Anyway.
All right, I think that's us for now. So maybe let's just kick it off and see where we will get. And if people join later on, then people join later on. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, so, oh, well, just as I was talking about, it's fantastic. Okay. Oh, Jan, fantastic, great. Let's have Jan.
Hey!
Hello, Jan. Thanks for joining.
Hi,
Great
sorry
to
I'm
see you.
late. My train was delayed. Sorry.
Well, I am very happy that we waited the 5 minutes because we were just about to start and then you just showed up. So perfect timing.
Three of us again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, yes.
Well, I'm really glad you're here. And yeah, without further ado, I think let's kick this off and then see where the discussion takes us. So welcome once again to Discussing Men. It's a reading group for all who want to expand their knowledge and expertise about men and masculinities and just stay on top of the most recent developments in the field and the research. In today's session, we are reading a recent report by OfCom. So that is the British agency that is in charge of, it's kind of like a watchdog agency that is in charge of making sure that the media in Britain are fair and non-abusive, or like, taking care of the quality of the media in general. They have recently published a report in June on experiences of engaging with the Manosphere. And in the report, they're exploring how men come to engage with the Manosphere, the role it plays in their lives, and how it shapes their views and behavior. So the report is based on 39 interviews, 38 of which are with men, and 1 is with a woman. And on the basis of this, they're basically doing this qualitative research in which they are exploring how those people of very different ages as well, I think it's 16 to 60 or something like this, how they engage with the Manosphere, what they're looking for in there, how do they understand it, how critically do they approach it, and so forth. And the report is full of quotes from what those people have said. So kind of giving us a window into what they think. Now, this report has also come under quite some scrutiny. Oh, welcome, Hessel. Thanks for joining us again.
Hi.
So the report has come under some scrutiny, and there's been a open letter that has been sent to the to OfCom by a feminist organization called what are they called? I don't remember right now. Finia, that's it, right. And they have basically criticized the report, and there's been some more criticism that has appeared in the press. So we will also tackle the questions that have come up in this criticism. Yeah, I was just really curious what all of you have also thought about this whole thing. So right now I'm going to start the counter and give us a little time for the intro. Just wanted to invite all of you maybe to just say a couple of words about who you are, where you're coming from, and maybe we all know each other in here, but for the sake of the recording, maybe it would be nice just a little sentence of where you're coming from to this. So I'm Simon Vogt. I'm a philosopher. I'm in charge of a NGO called Pathforge, where we try to find positive narratives to inspire men and boys to thrive in a fair and equal world. And I sit on the steering committee of Men Engage Europe, together with Alex, who is my co-host for this series of reading groups. So I will pass it on to you, Alex.
Thank you. And anybody who's first joined or who is watching us, I'm Alex. I'm co-founder and chairperson of a small NGO from Malta. The NGO is called Men Against Violence. And our primary concern is engaging men and boys in, gender equality, prevention of violence, and everything, any topic related to that. I also sit as Simon on the board of Men Engage Europe, and I'll pass it on to Jan.
I'm Jan, I live in the Netherlands, and I'm a father and a grandfather. Both very important issues for me, and I'm an activist and a consultant in the field of gender justice and sustainable development. Environment and climate comes very big in that one as well. And I was in the first stage that we had a steering committee rather than a board of Men Against Europe. I was on that board, on that steering committee at the very start, until we changed into a board with elections. Before that, we did not have elections. Too few people to elect from. Hassel.
All right.
Nice, thank you. My name is Hessel. I'm also from the Netherlands, and I work for Emancipator, the Dutch NGO that works on transforming masculinity norms. Yeah, I think that's it for now.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. And like I mentioned, the report that we're reading is OfCom's report on experiences of engaging with the Manosphere. Now, I wanted to kick off the discussion with a question that kind of follows from one of the things that the report has found itself. And that's a question about kind of what is the Manosphere. It sounded like the people who have been interviewed in the report very much disagreed about what is the Manosphere. Not only this, but they have all, many of them have reportedly said that they perceive the mainstream view of what the Manosphere is as wrong. Or like the mainstream views, the Manosphere is something different than what it actually really is, according to them. And that according to them, some people or some creators or influencers, other people get lumped with the Manosphere even though they have little connection with it. And there seemed to have been little agreement about what it is. So what is the Manosphere? And maybe who gets to decide what is the Manosphere as well? And I think what is really interesting in that as well is maybe like what kind of term is the Manosphere? Is it a descriptive term? Does it describe something? Or is it more of a evaluative term? It says that it's like good or bad. And maybe on the back of that, do you also think that there is such a thing as good or benign part of the Manosphere? So that's kind of a bunch of questions. I'm curious, like, what is in the report itself? Like I mentioned, there's quite a lot of confusion among the respondents of what it is, and I was wondering if first we could kind of like zone in of, do we actually know what it is?
I think it's it's something that you know it when you see it. I don't know how to explain it, but I mean, I've been researching Manosphere for a very long time, and how shall I say? It's for me. I could see their reasoning in a sense that obviously they did not. I think that's something that everybody they know that there is a bad vibe around Manosphere, and they do not want to be associated with more unsavory part of it. And there is a lot of insistence on sort of self-improvement and discipline and, making yourself better. And whilst we are ignoring the rest of the stuff that is not, part of what we are interested in. But if you then follow up with their explanations or their comments later on, you see that there is a lot of overlap there. And that is a problem of Manosphere. Whilst I agree with them that they are groups or tangents or whatever you want to call them, which are rather different, there is a lot of overlap between these groups, and they are tied up with misogyny. Even the ones that are saying that they are only interested in, self-improvement, because that's their self-improvement. It's only physical. It's hit the gym, build the muscle, and whatever. Or break your jaw to look more manly. That's all coming from misogyny and trying to, fit into a particular picture of the man is. So whilst, they are more extreme maybe, and there are different groups which tackle a different aspect of what they consider men issues are. they have a lot of overlap and a lot of joining dots.
I must say, when I was reading the documents, I got more and more frustrated by the fact that the organizers have tried to remain neutral, value-free. Both are dangerous, and they use the Collins Dictionary as their starting point. Come on, people, we know better than that. And if you have a report full of quotes of different people in different contexts, in different backgrounds, without even making an analysis of the quotes from the perspective of analyzing, it's just quotes stacked on top of each other, and drawing a conclusion not from this organization, not from the researchers, but from these people. So the researchers have not actually attended, or perhaps intended, I don't know, but not been effective in even making their own analysis of what the Manosphere is. They just use quotes, and that is the lousiest way of doing research. Honestly speaking, I felt really disappointed, and I must say I was also disappointed by the feedback from the women's organization, because they only talk about women and girls as if men do not suffer from the same Manosphere, misogyny, and LGBTIQ people do not suffer from the same thing as well. So I thought it was too far limited, even the comments, to women and girls. And the Manosphere is dangerous for young boys and men. And for older boys and men as well, for that matter.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought up the Collins Dictionary thing, because I was going to mention that as well as we move on. And just for everyone who's listening...
What is it? Can you explain?
Exactly. The definition of the Manosphere, which they use from the Collins Dictionary, is, and I quote, a loose agglomeration of blogs, websites, and forums dedicated to men's issues.
Completely neutral.
That is it. So technically, we are part of the Manosphere right now, recording this,
Yeah.
because we're devoted to men's issues, right? And all of the work of Men Engage is devoted to Manosphere, and all of your NGOs are part of the Manosphere.
All of
according to
Emancipator.
this definition. So it is, in a way, this is definitely too broad a definition. I think I would definitely agree with this. But I think it's really interesting to then kind of think, okay, so is misogyny a definitionary part of the Manosphere?
For
Can
me,
I
the
just-
thing with the men,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
that the Manosphere is so porous, and maybe 5 years ago it was more easy to delineate it from mainstream society. But for me, the most important part is that it speaks to certain surge in men, but then reverts to essentializing some aspect of masculinity or gender relations. And in that, it almost always falls back on whether you want to call it traditional or harmful or misogynistic or patriarchal norms. And it's extremely rare that they question what it is to be a man in itself. And that's a sad thing, that all these boys come with human questions from the perspective of boys and men, but then are not answered in a way which gives them broad options. It's a funnel. And then, like Alex said, almost always it leads to misogyny, because it falls back on certain patterns which have this inequality in them. So, and yeah, for me, talking about the Manosphere, that's the last thing. It's becoming more and more complicated and less useful for me to talk only about that group without also mentioning that all boys and men now face a barrage of content which is spilled over from the Manosphere. So this, of course, they mention all these communities, and they're often like more extreme communities, more committed, but all young men get like this essentializing, build muscles, etc. in their content feed. So I think also in that sense, this analysis, as Jan said, is completely missing from this work.
It was absolutely. I'm going to refer to some of the stuff that Jan said. It was absolutely uncritical approach. There was no the words were taken at face value. There was no probing it. There was no like some sort of debunking, at least in the reports, afterwards, or some, I don't know what maybe that was their target, or that's what they wanted to get. But because this we had a partially, and going back to again to what Jan said, that there was no in the criticism by women organization, there was no mentioning of men, which sort of I understand. I mean, we are not going to expect women to do this job for us, kind of stand up for men. They have enough on the plate standing up for women, for but this was what we mentioned in the previous conversation, that these Manosphere guys are sucking out the all the detracting from real issues, and they are not real organization really concerned with boys and men's health and well-being. And whilst they're representing themselves to be so, and actually they are actually making things worse, way worse, because this needed some sort of reaction and somebody to stand for boys and men, like more or less what I think many organizations in Men Engage are doing, because they have understanding of what is sort of happening to men and boys, and these guys are just making it worse.
Yeah, what I found very confusing when reading all these quotes stacked on top of each other, and then suddenly it was the end while of the research. I was like, whoa, I think I'm missing like the conclusions or something. And then it
reference
was
list.
the end. It was like,
huh? Yeah.
Reference of the stuff you read or before or because there was no criticism, so it wasn't engaging. So there was no reference list, and
no, I took one thing that I quoted actually here, to just because one of the things that they referred to is the male circumcision. And I've been discussing that quite a bit in the US because my son lives there. And the question was, when he was having a son, would he be wanting his son to be circumcised? And he decided no. And that was a discussion. Now, what they make a mistake here is that they equate male circumcision with female circumcision. One is cutting away pleasure. The other one was originally intended to be for hygiene reasons. And nothing else. It's among the Jews and the Muslims. And it has been taken to Australia and to the US to a great extent to most men, because in the US until recently, actually until when my grandson was born, he was the first one in that whole hospital, that whole district, that was not going to be circumcised. And the person in charge of helping the mother to lactate properly, she said, I'm so happy not doing it because we have evidence that male circumcision delays the ability of the boy child to actually start taking the milk because he's traumatized. So that's a trauma issue. That is not taking away the sexual pleasure, which the female circumcision cutting is all about. So even that, they have not given an analysis of why. I mean, you can say both is mutilation. Absolutely agree. But one is for a completely different purpose than the other. Why not indicate that? I mean, to me, I was upset.
Because I think they just mentioned something like, the person who said that didn't try to equate them, and then they gave a quote which kind of almost equates them. I found this really interesting, and on one hand, I can see this kind of okay, we're just reporting on the things those guys have said, and here is a stack of quotes, and I don't know, we don't need to. I don't know if some sort of critical approach is needed, I think, and I can understand that sometimes you don't want to create a report saying what other people think, and then okay, now children, and now here's the moral of the story. Let's talk about how you can you can present something for people to kind of make their own opinions on the basis of. But I don't think this was really well done in the case of this, and I was really worried about a quote from the author of this report, which was mentioned, that actually wasn't in the report, it was in the Guardian interview, in which the author, Damon de Jonno, says, our research suggests society has overestimated the risk of the Manosphere to women. It's not zero risk, but most of it doesn't have the power to radicalize people who are pretty discriminating and value-driven. So he's kind of treating them at face value as actually being as discriminating and value-driven as they say they are.
Right.
But are they actually? Like, obviously, anyone can say, hey, I'm very discriminating and value-driven. And when I was reading this, I was quite shocked at some point because, so here is actual quotes from the whole thing, right? So the report says, many of the participants expressed a strong commitment to equal treatment and fairness. They showed particular sensitivity to situations they perceived as unjust or discriminatory. This extended to issues specifically concerning men. And then there is a quote from one of those participants who says something like, and it's like the women in my nana's era. She just wanted to make my granddad happy. She just wanted to put food on the table. She just wanted to make sure that when he went out, he came back home with some dough. Just living an equal lifestyle. And you go like, well, clearly he has absolutely no understanding of what equality is, right?
No.
And he is like, yeah, he might be expressing a strong commitment to equal treatment and fairness, but he's got no understanding of what that actually means, right? So then kind of taking them at face value, and this is something that the Filia criticism was based on, right? So they write, the report seems to take participants' words at face value without examining whether their actual behavior online aligns with those claims. So, like, I feel like this report it's like a start of the report, you know? It's like, here's what they say, and now I feel like the authors should have gone like, okay, what do they actually believe? Or like, what is it, like, can we evaluate this? Like, do they actually do what they say they do?
Right.
You know, or are they just like saying this and not actually really...
But I think I need to go a step further, Simon, because many of when they describe people
just for a second, we have a person joining us, so I just wanted to open this. Hello. You hear a person joining us? Would you like to switch on your camera and tell us a little bit about yourself as well? Hello?
Okay.
Or not?
Go, Jan. I think continue.
So, sorry, before we go, I will just say, so if for the person joining us, if you would like to join, please switch on your camera and join the discussion. If you would, however, like to only listen to the discussion, I very much encourage you to join the live stream, which is on YouTube right now, and you can listen to everything and potentially write some questions in the chat. But we try to reserve the actual call to people who are kind of actively participating in the discussion. Okay? Oh, fantastic.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, just we can go ahead. I have issues here. Sorry, I'm coming. Just let me fix this.
No problem. Okay. Well, in this case, we will wait for you to fix this, and I will pass it back on to Jan.
Okay, no problem. Let me fix it.
I lost the thread.
Oh, sorry, Jan.
What was it again? Right, you were saying it was the start of a report. In fact, it was actually only the raw material. Now you actually have to start writing the report. And then you have to give in a value that this OfCom organization wants to actually research because they have a duty to protect people using the internet. That was the whole purpose. That has not been done here whatsoever. So it is not, the research is as you're saying, Hazel, the research is not started yet. Or Simon, you were also saying that, and to me, it's just the raw material is there, some raw material. And in fact, one of the issues I've had problems with is they have described roughly who the participants are. But if you are a content consumer, you could also be somebody actually from Menengate who looks at the network, who looks because you want to know what is going on there, like Alex, you've done. And of course, we all do that sometimes because we want to know what's going on. And if some of the quotes that I've seen in the document, some of the people that are being quoted, I thought, actually, that makes sense. Yes, that's a good question to ask. Not bad at all. And to me, these are not the people that would actually even be sort of drawn into the manosphere in the negative sense, as Alex was describing it to start with. And they may just be using that to see, okay, now what is actually going on there? Now, they have not described the participants, and in fact, if you do research of this with 38 participants only, and you have about 55 categories that you list, ages, class, I mean, the number of things that they mention as different categories in which they want to look at these people, I thought, come on, this is not a serious research. Absolutely not. And that makes me really disappointed that OfCom as an agency
Yeah.
A
Yes.
government-related
That
agency that should protect people against abuse on the internet has not been able to do a better research or institute people to do a better research or guide people to do a better research.
That is exactly what my worry was, because they are supposed to make some decisions on based on this report, and they actually did announce recently that they will be 9 ways they want providers to do better job at protecting especially women and girls from misogyny. But to do that, you need more thorough basis that you're starting on. I mean, yes, 38 interview, but they actually mention, in this report, that there is this forum or that forum, and that has, why not dig into the real data, of these instances, because it says very clearly, and I know this is true, that whilst it's very to join this incel forum, for instance, you need to, convince them that you're one of them, sort of. But they're visible, and there are thousands upon thousands of posts that could be analyzed for more thorough understanding, rather than interview with 2 or 3, who are, oh, maybe I am, maybe I'm not, or whatever they're saying. And this is another problem, that sample size of 39 is rather small to draw general conclusion about such a vast, as they themselves, present, vast number of groups, subgroups, blogs, Reddits, or forums, and so on and so forth. So, expecting better, yes, and a more thorough analysis, yes.
Can I add one more layer of criticism, and that it was like completely devoid from any like societal narrative, or like the masculinity norms, strict gender norms not mentioned. And also in the outro, nothing is mentioned about like why these men are driven, really, in essence, and also no ways to deal with that, like so this is a bit like, also of course from the men engaged in our organization's perspective, like what are we going to do about it? And of course it's maybe not OfCom's job to do like 20 pages on that, but at least like a couple of pages on why this content has increased so rapidly in recent years. So I also found that very strange, that for someone who wants to have some research, there should be like an intro and an outro on how do we get here, and what possible ways forward are here. And that also that was lacking also made me question like who wrote this report and why, whether they are actually knowledgeable about this, or whether someone just got the assignment, we need to do something with this. Can you finish that in 2 months? And they were just said like, okay, I'll interview some people without any like conceptualization of what we are actually doing here. That's not against the writer, but more against like what seemed quite
the setup.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't know obviously the full story in there. Perhaps this was a lack of funding issue, or maybe it was the wrong people or whatever else. But it does produce a unsatisfactory, I think, outcome, right? In which we feel like, okay, maybe this is like, and I think even if they just stated this, just said like, hey, this is what we could do. This is like a beginning of a picture.
Right.
But I think it was, in this whole thing, I was most disappointed with this quote from the author in The Guardian. When the author kind of actually exposed themselves as like actually taking it at face value. So,
that's shocking.
So that was quite okay.
Went back on defense because somebody criticized their work, and
yeah, perhaps. Okay, so I wanted to right now just say, so let's kind of leave the question about like the quality of the report itself, and maybe delve into some of the themes that the report is exploring. And an interesting segue to this is that I'm actually getting some comments from someone watching us on the live stream, and it's someone under a nick Alpha the Firestone 1222. And basically it's and this person is raising some points about like Manosphere argument, and so saying Manosphere message and mission are solid, Some content creators are wrong though. Manosphere argument one: men have rights, and they and have made the case that men have rights, and it is not wrong to acknowledge men's rights. And I'm actually quite I want to. Because this is something that the report is exploring as well. It's exploring kind of the ways through which the different men that it's quoting have found their way into the manosphere, right? That kind of gives you those little origin stories. And they quite often have to do with this sort of thought that, there's some kind of those men have some moment in which they feel like men's interests, rights, problems, or the way that men see the world or something like that are not seen or not. They don't feel seen. They don't feel respected. They don't feel, in some way acknowledged as men. And this is kind of the way that leads them into the manosphere. And I think that it was quite interesting to uncover this. And obviously there is a whole wealth of complexity. Are they right about this? Are they wrong about this? Is this something that, where does it come from? Is it a right thing that some of men's, old traditional rights are, no longer there? But I was just curious what you think about this, tracking this way through which people find their way into the manosphere, as this kind of echoed by this live stream watcher in here, the focus on men's rights and how the manosphere is focusing on men's rights.
I mean, I can just briefly tell you my because once upon a time I was doing serious research on these groups, and it was eventually I gave up on it and just keeping up now. But the stories of this is why I say maybe it's important this distinction in certain ways. But many of the groups, for instance, men going their own way or men rights, for instance, fathers' rights are not mentioned. Groups in the report. Let's say that they were maybe under men's rights, MRAs. They always have personal story to tell how they were sort of burned by the world, especially the ones that are going through a nice, unpleasant separation or things like that. Custody about children is often mentioned. Unfair judges. They claim, the court is against men, the laws are against men, and things like that. But and it's always some kind of story like that. And it often, and I think there was a vibe there in the some of the comments. I'm not a misogynist. I have, women in my life that I love and respect. Number of them sort of mention kind of this kind of narrative, which pretty much to me sounds like I'm not a racist, but there is that trope that that something is coming racist or something. I'm not a misogynist, but I like women, but so I think that there is a lot of that trope, that story that is based on personal experience. And now I can say from it was a few years back, but some of these experiences, what they feel, you cannot deny it, that's how they experience it. That's how they feel it. And it's not that some of them did not encounter problems, especially in the breakdown of relationships and things like that, which is the problem is not with that. It's how they then handle it and where they look support and what kind of support they think, and that sort of leads down the rabbit hole. From maybe a genuine issue that affected them personally and that they experienced personally, and not being able maybe to seek support, or not being able to go to the right kind of support that is possibly available. They go down the rabbit hole by trying to sort of self-help or find something on their own, which by default leads them to these organizations, groups, blogs, or whatever they are. And then down the rabbit hole we go, and then from something that could be really tackled or dealt with or whatever, all of a sudden becomes something completely different.
I agree. And I felt that some of the quotes that you see in the document would actually indicate that perhaps these people have not gone down the rabbit hole yet. And they're actually perhaps just consuming because they want to find out, just like you, what is going on there. Because some of the quotes actually make sense. More dialogue is needed. Men need to work on themselves. Absolutely true. Some laws need to be changed. Absolutely true. And there are situations of discrimination. Even when fathers try well and there's no violence involved. And in the separation, the men don't get a chance simply because they have been working full time. So there are issues of serious concern. But actually, you're absolutely right. If then they find this as a solution, then they have not found a solution. And that's a sad story. And that's where I think the rabbit hole is going deep. And then what was the term again? When you get into this whole trap, then you go deeper and deeper because you get confirmed in all the things that you say. And with the laws exaggerated that it's always against, and it's always this, and the newspaper and the media, they're always against us. Then you go wrong. But I think many of the calls in the document, even from the quotes, for more dialogue, for more understanding between the different sexes and different genders and different positions and the media for that matter, rather than just taking a simple, quick and or dirty response. No, of course, the women should be protected. I mean, the men have an issue too. The men have many issues. Let's acknowledge that, but then do it in such a way that is not at the cost of women. And that you actually have a dialogue, and that's what's missing when it comes to the conclusions they have. Because it is not as if they're, oh no, we are neutral men and we just want to have our information and look better to attract more women.
Yeah, absolutely. I found this really interesting from this perspective that it's this thing that I keep like seeing and kind of battling with all the time, which is that people have good questions. You know, or they might, like Alex was saying, they might have lived experiences which have left them, you know, in trouble in some way, like with problems. And maybe, you know, maybe they were the cause of some of those problems, but, you know, maybe somebody else was the cause of those problems. Maybe they really did have, you know, like a bad relationship, or maybe some other things were not playing in there, and you know there can have been a million kind of guilty parties to this. It doesn't matter. The point is that they need support, right? And they're seeking this support.
Right.
And I think that the kind of, to me, sad thing is that, well, they actually find it there. And I always I was always saying that, to me, as a person who would like to see men you know, not be misogynist and kind of, you know, be able to better embody more positive, wholesome, caring masculinities and all of this. To me, the question is not so much why do they find this support somewhere else and those misogynistic space. The question is, why don't they find it
right
in the more kind of supportive, positive, you know, masculinity spaces? And yeah, I'm kind of really like interested in then this question that I started from, which is, you know, what counts as manosphere? Because we tend to have this, I think, evaluative way of approaching it, which is it's the stuff that is, you know, raising those men's issues in a misogynistic way, in a bad way, right? There's an evaluative aspect to it. It's a bad thing, but then. Well, there is also content that is raising men's issues in potentially a good way, right? I mean, I would like to think that what we're recording right now is this kind of content, and then yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. I'd like to see a Manosphere alternative, which is also offering the support. You know, it's also like finding those people who have those real questions and they are really in a difficult time in life and they do need help. But they actually find this help from, you know, places that don't at the same time tell them to, be, you know, horrible people in other ways. And I was, actually, no, I will leave it there.
But this is exactly the thing. I mean, women's rights, women's movement, support that women offer to each other, protects, you know, safe houses, phone lines. They didn't come overnight. You know, the women, you know, literally talking 1800. So we are talking, you know, 200 plus years ago, they started, trying to work out who they are, what's their role in the society, demand the rights and fight for the rights, emancipation, and all of these things. So over these last 200 plus years, women have been working on it.
Mm-hmm.
They've been working on it. They're organized. They have systems in place. They have knowledge base. They have knowledge base on what does it mean to be a woman in every respect. Academic history. I mean, feminism is basically the story of lived experiences of women. That's where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with men, in these particular terms, women have a head start that they worked hard on, and they are still working on. And I think that, again, I'm going back to, this manosphere, which basically resists change. There has to be women as women change. There was a transformation and work that was put in, is bringing, them to stand up for their rights, for equality, and so on and so forth. Whilst for men, most of the time, they were resisting these changes.
Right.
Rather than sitting down and, okay, this is happening. How can we change? Because this is changing and we want to stay the same. And these guys in the Manosphere is actually, they're hammering on that. Not only the let's stay the same and do the same stuff and be the same strong, stoic leader, provider, whatever, emotionally non-available, whilst calling themselves really rational, and so on and so forth. Whilst there is a serious need to, let's work on it. Yeah, actually, the most of even the masculinity research and what have you started from the feminists themselves.
Right. Yeah, but if
they can't do it for us. No. If men are lonely, why don't they get together? But no, they don't, because the only emotional valve that they are taught to have is their partner. There's no. I mean, there's so many things that men could do.
Or what they do now, what they do in a chapter on religion, they actually start using religion as a confirmation of the tradition.
Yeah.
Because they don't want, they go to the religion, and what I find is a confirmation of patriarchy. Nothing less, nothing more. So, in fact, the whole issue of, if we realize women have moved forward and men have stood still, they got stagnant, and they actually then go into the manosphere. To me, actually, it was quite new to see religion taken as part of the manosphere. I didn't think that was sort of a thing. But anyway, that's what this report was doing. It brought it in. But what you find in that approach of the religion is actually confirmation of patriarchal notions and gender division of labor. And nothing else. With a few people criticizing that, but all the same, let's confirm what is there, and not ourselves. No, let's quote from some higher powers. And I find that very dangerous. But tell me, Alex, is that something you've actually earlier seen in the manosphere? Because to me, religion and manosphere are not. To me, you can equate them in terms of patriarchy, but that was not the way I've seen most so far the different communities in the manosphere.
There have been, they because it's coming from religion, and or this kind of perspectives align. Okay. So there are people who are religious, the something keepers. I forgot the old keepers, not old keepers. I forgot
keepers.
Yeah. And these were, very, very traditional, strict gender divisions, but coming from a very religious beliefs from their faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in the report itself, it came up at some point when there are some people criticizing Jordan Peterson for being too religious, for example, right? Or things like this. So I think that, the manosphere is quite heterogeneous when it comes to this. I imagine there will be...
Yes, or when they say that they listen to Tate because, he promotes family values.
Yeah, because of Islam. That's what he quotes. That's what he says.
How is he promoting what kind of family values?
I'm really
with the man of dominance, with the man as the dominant person. That's what he clearly shows.
I really liked what you were saying earlier, Alex, about this, like a characteristic, maybe like I don't know if defining, but definitely a characteristic, feature of the Manosphere being this kind of everybody needs to change except me, you know? And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of people who go to therapy or go to couples therapy, and they go with this mindset of like, hey, therapist, tell me how my spouse is wrong about everything, and tell us how I'm right and they're wrong.
Yeah.
And it's this very, I mean,
Seeking confirmation.
Yeah, I mean,
Confirmation of what you already know.
Yeah, in one way, it's a understandable human approach, I guess, but at the same time, it just shows such immaturity, right? This kind of like unwillingness to actually acknowledge that, hey, maybe we need to do some work as well. And it's really interesting because so much of the Manosphere is focused on this self-improvement, right? And this like self-improvement with respect to very specific things. But I get this impression, and I don't know exactly, but I get this impression that as this kind of, well, it's not really easy self-improvement. A lot of it is still, difficult things to do, but it doesn't touch this like improvement of the deep values, or the self-improvement content that is actually improving your, I don't know, personality changes, worldview changes. And
there's no self-challenging. There's no self-questioning. That is missing in improvement.
Yeah, and there's also the lack of the human connection. Like what I read a lot in these quotes is wanting to be seen as a human being, wanting to be loved, wanting healthy human relations, and that's in the red pill community. In the black pill community is even worse. In the incel community, what they basically is driving them is not being seen as a human being or a potential romantic target.
Right.
Especially with the black pills, that's like just what they also say themselves is the main driving force, that they're not suitable romantic partners and will never be because of genetics or looks or whatever. So what's driving them is this search for connection, but then everything that they do is, and part of it's what you're saying, Simon, it's not focusing on how do you do nice human relations. It's also not how do you do nice equal human relations. What part do I play in that? And that's just a sad thing. If we're talking about men's rights, like the central theme of that should be the right to develop yourself as a full human being, rooted in yourself without needing external validation through work or through being a provider or something, and doing social relations well. And that's the sad part that gets lost, like the emotionality and the social relations. And all other answers seem like cheat code shortcuts to get around those things that is not working out for those men. So they want to look maxing, or they want like strong jaws and chew on their jaw all day because they want to be seen as a human being.
Right.
Yeah, but it does feel like it's this kind of like cheat code approach, right? It's like avoid the actual hard work and just find a. Or I mean, I think pickup artists are the best example of this, right? Like,
that's the short cheat code. And going to the gym 6 times a week is a difficult cheat code, but it's still just doing something that is very clear. And then magically after that, someone will look at you completely differently, and you will be a nice partner. And that's not how the world works.
It's something that we are also raising, I think, in the last discussion when talking about your report, Hassel, at this whole like. Men engaging and all of those things that they believe is going to actually make them better at achieving the aims they profess to be having, like finding partners and all of it, but it actually makes them worse at it, right? Because it prevents them from developing those skills that are required to build connection, from the capacity to make themselves a bit vulnerable so that people see them as with empathy and like actually want to connect with them and all of this. So it all comes back.
Yeah, and it also drives them more online, more away from real social relations, and makes them more vulnerable to finding these online spaces where super easy answers are promoted.
Yeah.
All right, we will now take 5 minutes to take a little break and then come back to the discussion in a moment. Okay, so please feel free to go grab a tea, grab a coffee. I'll start the counter now. 5 minutes, and we're coming back.
In the meantime, Festus is coming in. Have you seen him? Festus coming in.
Oh, fantastic. Hello, Festus. Hey. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Excited to have you with us. Fantastic. We are just on a break right now, so we're halfway through. And yeah, in 4 minutes 40 seconds, we're gonna come back to the report. Did you have a chance to read
No
the report?
problem. Okay, thanks. See you later.
No problem. All right, everyone, slowly coming back.
Yep.
Let me just move us on. And perhaps before we begin, Festus, if you're still there, would you like to join us and introduce yourself as well? Hello, so we're joined by Festus now, and we haven't had a chance to meet before, so very much welcome to the group. Would you be okay to just very briefly introduce yourself? Just a couple of sentences.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Festus Kisa. I am based in Nairobi, Kenya. I have done my expertise I'm a social worker in community development. That's my background. I worked with LGBTQ youth. And for the last couple of years, I've been working with men and masculinities, and that's growing co-chair of Feminine Engage Global Board. Sorry, I joined late. I confused the time zones, but I'm happy. But it's in between.
Well, I'm really glad that you're with us. Fantastic. And we have already started talking, and we kind of like went through a few issues, but there's still plenty to talk about. So I'm really interested to hear your input as well. And I will start the timer. Let us move on. And as we kick off the second part of this session, I wanted to kind of focus on a couple other things that came up in this report. And as some kind of, leading thought for this, I wanted to offer you a quote from a book that I recently bought and reading right now, which is called How to Talk to Your Son About Fascism. I don't know if you heard about this. Really interesting, by Craig A. Johnson. And in there, at some point, he writes, if you don't understand why a person might be excited about or interested in fascism, you won't be able to steer him away from it. And I think this is a really interesting realization, kind of point, which might, I think, be kind of like a saving grace for this report, in my view, which is it gives us a little bit of a window into, those, like, how do those people think, and, what interests them in the Manosphere. And it might help us understand, what is it that actually draws them to it? And what do they find attractive in it? Because this might allow us to, better understand how to potentially steer them away from it as well. So this is kind of the thought that I, thought could be like leading this next question to the discussion, which is about what the report uncovers related to what the men quoted in there find appealing in the Manosphere. What draws them to it and why? And what are they seeking? We already spoke a little bit about this. So like Alex mentioned, they're kind of seeking, answers and perhaps some support. But they seek it there. They don't seek it somewhere else, right? So what is it that draws them to it? And, maybe understanding that better will help us also, react to it better.
And one step further, what did they finally get out of it? Because what Alex was saying, they're looking, you said it too, Summer, they're looking for something. You could also say the same people that were interviewed now, what did they find there? Did they actually get answers to their questions? Because they have many questions. And they went down the rabbit hole, and some just stayed on the surface, but they had questions. Did they get answers to their questions? And if not, then what would they need? So it is what were they looking for? No? What did I understand? But also, what did they find? Or what did they not find, for that matter?
I think that there is and I think I'm getting a little bit of a vibe of that from some of the answers, that they already had, some of them had already preconceived ideas of, what they had in mind, and they just found the confirmation.
Right.
Which was very appealing, and what have you. I think that's number one. And number two, I think the ones that, let's say, genuinely were searching for answers of some kind, I think that the answers they got are easy to digest. We mentioned that, I think, even in our previous conversation, that introspection, looking inwards, analyzing and changing behavior is much harder than actually getting a confirmation of I just I'm a victim. I just can't, this is something done to me. I did nothing wrong. I can just stay as I am. I need to stay as I am, and maybe do more of what I am or how I was. Like in a better way, like go to hit the gym and as if you can. I think I mentioned that you cannot bench press yourself out of depression or suicidal thoughts, or you can't.
No.
You cannot discipline yourself out of mental health problems or maybe even some structural issues that are affecting you. So I think in terms of seek, what in many cases they seek confirmation, and even if they're genuine, often, and this is where the risk is that they go down the rabbit hole and they get more than what they bargain for, especially when it's when they become part of the in-group and in-group talk, in-group think. It becomes much harder to get out.
Yeah, I have a talking group outside of Emancipator, just as an activist talking group for men to transform masculinity. And recently we asked, just before the session started, like who of us, and we're now like age 25 to 40, and there were 12 people present, and we asked like who of you Googled, because we're a bit older, so there was not this social media funnel, but who Googled like how to date people or how to flirt with a girl or something. So everyone raised their hands, and then we asked like, okay, and then who of you did a follow-up step? So bought this book. I don't remember what it's called. It was very popular around 2007, like a pickup artist. Yeah, the game, but it was still relatively mild to what's out there now. And then there were two people who went down this funnel, but this was like in hindsight all just high school boys who never talked about it with other boys. And of course, talking about dating with girls is also limited. Like in heterosexual things, you can talk about a lot of things with women, female friends, romantic partners, but some stuff is very specific or even shameful to ask questions about. So now we were all older men reflecting on this, like shit, we all had this starting point. Half of us went in a weird direction, and two of us who were now saying that they're progressive people got sucked into it in a mild variety, because this whole framework afterwards that funnels you did not exist yet. But to me, it was very, very, yeah, it says so much about the modern world. Like the boys still have the same questions. The boys still don't talk with other boys about it. But now there's this whole world that's ready to suck them in. And yeah.
And this is
maybe let's because Festus just joined us as well, and then
Right,
we have a chance
exactly.
to talk.
Yes.
Is there anything you'd like
You've
to
read the
add?
paper, right, Festus? You've read the paper?
Yes, but not entirely. So I skimmed through the part, but I think my comment on why people go to the online spaces, I think and I think someone quoted this in one of the pages that I read around being able to say whatever you want without thinking of the consequences, because it's like in online spaces, there's freedom to say whatever you want because there's freedom of speech and you're sort of protected. But like if you said something, if they spoke up and used maybe the language that they used in social situations, people would either label them, people would see them as problematic, and they'll not be, so I think the anonymity, not really that, I don't know whether it's the anonymity or the fact that it's very easy to get away with whatever. You'd have to follow certain societal conducts or certain ways of behaving or communication when you're there, when you're online. And the other thing, and which I've alluded to earlier, is just when you have a group of people who have the same mindset as you, it's very hard to challenge each other. And I think it's also how boys are raised, especially if I would give the example of Kenya, maybe speaking about Africa. Many men and boys are not socialized to like argue or respectfully bring about our points. So we don't interrogate as much as maybe other people. maybe it's also the assumption that boys are smarter, so they collect information, process information quicker, which could be true or could not be true. But I found that even in most cases, like for example, with how we analyze football, a football match is very direct. You'd say this person scored this goal and etc. But when it comes to other nuanced topics, many men and boys are not able to bring forth arguments or in an amicable way, with a point of understanding. So being in a space where all of you basically speak the same sound and does it to the same beat, it's easier for them to be sucked in and not.
Your
Microphone.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally muted myself. So,
It's okay.
So just to summarize, being in an online space where people sort of celebrate you for what you say, and then having to come back to just that feeling that my thoughts are welcome, and I don't need to change who I am. Like one of you said earlier, is what keeps them in the space.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring this up as this kind of acceptance on one hand, right? And acceptance, you like words and all, this kind of thing.
Yes.
Even though you would go like, well, maybe some of those words we shouldn't accept, because they're just...
Yes, exactly.
True.
But then also you mentioned earlier about this kind of, and this was brought up in the report as well. They specifically said that like what was drawing men to the Manosphere was this kind of informal character, this down to earthness, the fact that there are no taboos, you can disagree, you can be irreverent, there's dark humor and all of that, and like all the spontaneity and all of this. Like they're talking about Joe Rogan being so relatable, and no nonsense, and this kind of like,
Yes.
and it's really interesting how. I don't know. I wonder what you think about this from the perspective of what this also says about other discourses. As in, they're finding it there, it draws them there. And what does it say also about how we could do our discourse so that it's similarly attractive? Because, very often I feel like I go to... Like, we have raised the class issue a couple of times already in the past in this and the series, and basically there could be an argument made as well to say that, well, maybe we're not very down to earth about those things. Maybe we could also use a bit more spontaneity and humor in our discussion, for example.
Yes.
So I'm quite curious what you think about this, because these are the sort of things that they outwardly say are the things that attract them to it. So what does it say about them, but also what does it say about us?
Well, that's exactly. Yeah.
It's very interesting because one of the programs we ran at Kinishi where I used to work was conversations around health education and behavior and just access to it was more long reproductive health. But we noticed that there's a way, even the peer educators we chose, like there's a way, if someone already has a mindset that you and I are not the same, we're not the same people, there's always a divide. I don't know whether it's a human thing where someone just says, oh, nobody understands me. So we are like, okay, fine, we can get peers who are like your age mates, someone who comes from the same geographical area, someone who speaks the same language as you, would make you understand things like, condom use, safe sex practices and whatnot. But we noticed that that's a challenge. It's very hard to break through to men because there's always, and I think there's an assumption we have when it comes to working with men and masculinities is that men are simple creatures. And we realize, more and more realize they are not, because one message that could be free for all, you have to package it in so many ways. And I think it's that we haven't taken the time to figure out who exactly our audience is and how to reach out to them. So we have great messages, we have great discourse, but some of it is heavily academic, or some of it is usually sometimes esoteric. So it's not relatable. So, and I don't know how. So I think we just need maybe we need a wider pool of people who can speak to every type of man out there. Like if it's men in churches, how do we program? How do you have conversations with men in churches? Using scripture, or religious texts as a conduit. If it's young men in schools, how do we talk to them? How do we talk to people who feel like I am not mainstream, I'm a rebel? So I think it's it's maybe we need more people on this. I think that's one of the ways of looking at it. Another thing would be, I think, and we need more role models in terms of, for example, I'll give an example of my nephew. I don't think, sometimes I think I'm a role model for my nephew, but I think his father comes higher because, I feel like there's a way sons model after their father. So if your father is the type who does not listen or does not take in information easily, then the way you're brought up is you're not going to take up much more information. You're not going to easily take up information or be more trusting. So I don't know how we can start with these messages from the house or from the neighborhood. Like, do you have that cool uncle who has facts, or do you have that cool teacher in school who has? I don't know how that happens, because even the message, I don't know. People say maybe that's what the anti-rights, anti-gender have succeeded in packaging the message for the people, and the message is usually very simple. I don't know how that. I don't know how we can make our message simple enough for people. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's exactly. I mean, but isn't this what sort of Men Engage the idea is all about?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The going back to a little bit how the very idea of coming up with narratives, which we know that the feminism, you have to deconstruct the social structure and to break it down, and it takes time to explain, and it's complicated, and who's going to listen to that? So what Simon and Jan mostly, and Katrina was it? Carolina doing on coming up with these more positive narratives that can sort of be used because we are sort of at disadvantage at simplicity of messages that are coming from Manosphere on certain issue to men. But for me, why mentioning like listening to the what's his name, the podcaster, they were saying, he's
Joe Rogan.
He's
Joe
like,
Rogan. Yeah, that's right.
He has variety of guests, but then all the guests they mention, in terms of as a giving example, he got I don't know, a wrestler, and he got a fighter, and he got they didn't mention he got, I don't know, a woman or a feminist professor or something. All the ones they mentioned were men, and in a very, very manly sort of jobs, which and this is where you see that there is this mistrust of women, or misogyny, if you want to call it. Like we mentioned a little bit about these pickup parties and these guys who are coaching them how to be better in relationship with women. They're all men. I mean, who's gonna tell you what women want better than a woman?
Right.
But they are not seeking women coaches who will sort of show them the side that they don't know. They trust men because believe this man has experience, he knows how to do it, and he's gonna pass on the knowledge to me. And this again, apart from being completely wrong and loop-sided, this is when Men Engage, or this kind of conversation, and how do we enter these places, and how do we spread our narratives? This is something that we have to wrestle with and do a better job than what we are doing.
So if I wanted to kind of also discuss the kind of circle it back to what we were saying at the beginning about the report being a bit uncritical about all of those answers that people are providing, and wanted to mention it's like a very commonly recognized phenomenon in psychology, which is the intention behavior gap, which is basically the gap between what people say they want and what they're looking for, and what it is that they actually want and what they're looking for, right? And you can see it most obviously when you're getting your end of year Spotify report on what it is that your favorite music is, and you have those great ideas that your favorite music is all this ambitious stuff and all of that, and it actually turns out that what you actually mostly listen to is not that stuff at all, right? It's something else. And it is quite common that people who, profess to have certain needs or ideas, or think that one thing is what they're looking for. Actually, what they're looking for might be something else, right? And I think it's a fair question to ask in here, and it's a shame that the authors did not ask it, which is to ask, well, those guys are saying that this is what they're looking for in the Manosphere. What are they actually looking for in the Manosphere? And you're already bringing it up a little bit. When, for example, the report is quoting the most popular self-improvement people, so the people who are not about any kind of talk about gender or anything else, right? It's about your personal self-improvement, but they're bringing up, David Goggins or Jordan Peterson, and you go like, well, it just, you say you're going there for self-improvement. You say you're going there because you want to, I don't know, improve your, be more stoic or be more, I don't know, whatever else it is that you say that might seem like something that is focused on your personality or something about you. But then you just happen to look for it from the people who also play into this traditional masculinity, who don't actually require you to make deep personality changes or worldview changes, and that kind of uphold your patriarchal privilege. And this is something that I thought the Philia response brought up as well. Where they say something like, and it's a quote, suggesting that many men involved in the Manosphere are simply value-driven, overlooks the growing body of evidence showing that these values frequently include entitlement, hostility, and dominance over women. And I think that it's really important to kind of distinguish this, like, okay, so what is it that you're saying you're looking for, and what is it that you're actually finding, right? What is it that, like, if you, what you're really looking for is, content that helps you improve your, your capacity to deal with stress at work, or other things that are like, serious problems, and people could be looking for this, or your ability to really show up as a father or whatever else. If that was what you're really looking for, then I think we would see a bit more even spread across the kinds of influencers that are providing answers to this, that are, some of them would be quite misogynistic, let's say, but there would be equally popular ones who are not misogynistic, right? Because they still provide answers to those questions you say you're looking for answers for. But maybe that's not really the questions you're looking, or that's not really the reason why you go there, right? You're not really necessarily...
Yeah, that's a complication,
You're looking for those answers, but you're also looking for some sort of validation of this traditional masculinity at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, and the boys are already coming from patriarchy. So that's why they're not listening to a feminist podcast who gives simple answers and who invites like a female farm worker or something. So yeah, that's the complicated thing. If you try to like simplify our own narrative to compete with that, you're still like 3-0 behind.
Yeah. And I like the I think it's also fair to make an assumption that already people go to the Manosphere because they want to be a real man, because there's this fixation with what a real man does and a real man does not. So you have to listen to the manliest man who's on the internet, because if you look around, you're not seeing the man that you see. So of course, just the assumption that this search is also rooted in misogyny and looking for supremacy and because you not only see women as inferior, you also start seeing other races as inferior. So there's that, and that obsession with how things used to be in the past. I see that being reflected a lot, where like, oh, in the past men were like, there's a certain obsession with simplicity, forgetting that life is complex and our histories are already complex, and we are where we are. So it's easier to do the work of building a better future. And there's also a friend of mine tells me this a lot. There's a certain bigness men talk about their problems, like it will be maybe something simple or something that can be solved, but the way people go like, oh, you don't know what men are going through, as a unit, you wouldn't understand if you're not a man, like it's those things. And they're like, what exactly are these problems? Like, is it that we don't have enough words to explain the challenges that men are going through? is it that and then I'm trying to tie it to the assumption that we'll give about men and academia, and like we all assume that boys are leading in schools, but maybe which kind of books do we read? I look at the kind of, like the things that boys and men obsess over, like action figures, comic things, and etc. But it's not the books that expand our thinking, or expand our mind, or expand our vocabulary. So already we are limited in the word that we use in terms of describing what our brain is. And then society also has this boys don't cry, a man should be stoic, and etc. So already we are boxing ourselves in a way that we can only explain our deepest, darkest things to the dark web. So it means that even if we provided spaces for people to speak and come in the support group, already you feel like those feelings are shameful. So you're not necessarily a healthy way to either engage. So I think that could be also one of the things that maybe if we, and it's not even this, and it's not about the language, it's about the thinking. And I've also remembered that most of these self-help or rather masculinities program or engaging men programs are usually done in either rural areas or the slums or low-income areas. So because that's why we assume that the men have
exactly.
So we don't really have programs for like people in the city and side. So there's other assumption that boys who are in the city are well read or are more aware of the differences. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts with regards to this.
Yeah. Well, in fact, in the Netherlands, we've had quite some time where at least the government thought the problems that men have, well, that's primarily with the migrant people.
Yes.
We white people, no, we don't have that problem. It's the migrant people. Oh, come on, people, wake up. It's among the academics, it's everywhere. Because we all brought up by the same patriarchal norms and values.
Yeah.
Can't help it. And women too, for that matter. And some women actually are confirming the same patriarchal norms and values, and some protested. And they've had many years, as Alex was analyzing before, many years, hundreds of years to actually work on that. And men have actually been slow in even recognizing the issues that they have to deal with, and I'm working on it. So in that sense, I think we have to find ways to do that. But then thought came to my mind. If we are saying that people find it easier in the anonymous sphere of the internet to share their views, and sometimes very bad views, but also very open views, because at least they can share their views.
Yeah.
Can we create spaces as Men Engage or whoever organizations we are with, to do this in a safe way, in a non-anonymous way? So you really are confronted with your own thoughts, because if we don't confront ourselves with our own limitations, we don't make a next step.
Yes.
And I'm just wondering how at Men Engage we can do that in such a way that we don't just give in easily to, let's do it anonymous, because that's what people feel attracted to in the Manosphere. It's all, and not just Manosphere, but all things on all the different social media that can attack their classmates in school, secondary school, without anyone knowing it. And yet these people get bullied and have to go for psychiatric treatment simply because we can't handle it. Can we find different ways? I mean, that's really the question.
So this.
Sorry,
no, go on, please.
No, I'm just piggybacking what you've said. I think the challenge with our spaces is we expect a certain performance. So there's a certain, even with the rules we have, like, yes, it's come as you are, but not really as you are, because for someone, and those spaces tell you come as you are with your crazy words, with your mindset, because I feel like, and that's why people perform. Someone will look like they're progressive, they're not one of those men. And we always talk about these other men, like they're not in our midst, it's always, those men in the Manosphere. But we're assuming that, because everyone could have those mindsets, anyone could have those ideas, but then because we don't provide a space for people to question, to interrogate. So maybe create a more open space for questioning and interrogation without judgment, because I know normally, like, for example, if you don't know feminism, like, what do you mean you don't know feminism when you're in this space? You know, there's always an attitude we have. What do you mean you don't know masculinity? So how do you have a kind of
Yeah.
more open
I-
so people can discuss questions, right?
Yeah. I would add like without judgment, but moderated in
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
moderated,
keep it
yes.
low.
Yeah.
Moderated, yes.
Still has to be safe, because
Mhm.
without judgment, it could go very deep and badly.
Yes,
So on
yes.
the back of that, the person I was mentioning who on the live stream has been posting some questions, of which we only managed to really look into one, has been posting like a list of arguments of the Manosphere that have to do with. So there is argument about men getting unequal treatment in divorce court. There is an argument about child support needing reform. There's an argument about marriage being a bad deal for men, and a whole lot of other things about biological fathers being the best person to take care of the child, and two parents households are the best model for raising children, and so forth. But I don't want to like address any of those arguments specifically. I think, but then at the end, I think quite interestingly, and this is something that I would actually want to raise with you. The person write, I am not in the Manosphere Red Pill community, but I can say this. You are all going to lose because you're not addressing the arguments that the Manosphere has made. And I think that this is actually potentially an interesting point because it's just like, you know, like if people are going to the Manosphere to seek some answers for something, then the point in there is that the Manosphere is actually addressing those points that they're coming with, and the perception of the person is that the Manosphere is addressing those points and we are not addressing those points. And I don't agree with this, but I see that this perception is quite common, and I think that this perception has also come up in the report itself. And I'm curious, what do you think about this perception, and maybe if you could help us kind of clarify why this perception is, you know, like what's potentially misguided about this. And like, what is it that, like, why do people feel like the Manosphere is addressing those arguments or those points, and we are not addressing those points? And that if we are not going to address those points, then we're going to lose, right? There's a sentiment behind this whole thing.
Alex,
I don't know where to start.
Speak your mind.
I don't know where to start. I mean, the very thing that he's thinking in terms of winning and losing. You know, this is the first thing. I mean, he did like one sex, one gender has to win. You know, it's not like that.
Nope.
You know, it's that's telling you about the mentality, that mentality or the kind of thinking that
The Manosphere
expresses in terms of winning and losing, which is, you know, these are the problems that are affect. Some of these problems are problems that affect, you know, all genders, you know, and can affect anyone. But they're specifically, you know, the first thing, I mean, the judges are not fair in custody cases and give custody to mothers. Yes, but if the judge or whoever decides has a patriarchal thinking and is doing this because they think patriarchally that woman is a better option for a child, then this guy needs to join feminist movement,
right?
Because if the feminist movement does not want judges with patriarchal thinking, okay,
here.
So if men are not getting custody, then there is a structural issue. Why are men not getting custody? Because women usually take care of kids, and the court finds stability for kids to be more important than split between two adults. So men have to be more engaged in upbringing their children from before the marriage breaks down. In the case, you know, if they want to have, you know, more equal rights and more sharing parenting, which is great, and I agree with, but that means that men have to change, and then again, men are not ready to change, or are resisting change, you know. So these are the things, you know, that they are preferring to feel like victim, preferring pointing fingers, because it's much easier than actually do the introspection and emotional and mature work that men need to do in order to solve some of these problems. I'm gonna stop there because otherwise I'll continue.
No, thank you very much. You're the perfect person to answer this. Anyone wants to add?
No, it is fine. It's good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think the specific cases that are mentioned are to me always seem like people struggled really hard to come up with a small list, which is just incomparable. Um, and then they really want to focus the conversation on those couple of points and don't want to address the rest. So basically they try to get you on their court where you can't really um, have a prolonged conversation, because if you complicate it too much, like Alex is starting to do a bit in a very succinct way, then you lose them already. So it's just a fight, which they're not really interested in. They're just posing a couple of things like to defend their own worldview, and that's what I find really complicated in this. That it costs a lot of energy to try and engage with that. But I've until now not really encountered a person who was then like really willing to
To change.
go in depth into looking, for example, about into the way that women experience social safety in a very different way.
Right.
Then they
Right.
immediately want to go back to
Right.
these like 5, 6, 7 points, which are so insignificant compared to a whole. Yeah. So yeah, nothing more concrete to add on these points, but more like winning or engaging in this is a time vampire that I think we shouldn't do too often.
And to add to that, I would say that it's usually when people start those conversations, then it's not for you to change. It's not an invitation for them to change their minds. They're basically saying, "Oh, look, we're victims. You're oppressed."
Yep.
Because if you ask them who maintains these systems, these patriarchal systems, it's men. So it's if we have a problem, it's the same way people say, "Oh, but men are not allowed to cry." And I'm like, but if men in this patriarchal structure, it's men who are upholding, yes, men and women. But we could easily say we don't want it anymore because the system harms us. So not acknowledging the harm that it does to us, but seeing it as, oh, look, it's the women, it's the migrants, it's this, it's that. And also that conversation that one has to be, we are losing people, that has to be a winning or losing. It also means that one is superior to the other. And you really can't have discussions around, it's very hard to have we are better than so and so, because it's usually going to be one over the other, men or women, migrants versus, and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought this up as well. Fantastic. And I think that, it's like I also don't want to leave this with this kind of impression that the problems that men have, even though overall in scale they might be hard to compare with the difficulties that women are still facing, that is not also to say that they're insignificant and that we shouldn't actually pay any attention to them.
They're serious.
They can still be important problems and they deserve attention and all of this, but we cannot be in a situation in which we should only focus on them and we're stealing the attention from everything else. Like it's not
and then also not only these couple of problems that men have. We should then talk about all problems that men have, like male loneliness caused by men not talking to each other. But then also they don't want to talk about that as a systemic issue.
Right,
So
right,
just to add a little bit to you, like I care about men deeply, but then I also want to talk about caring for men and not just how some men are not taken seriously in court as a caring.
And the statistics that get typically brought up about, like, I know 85% of victims of violence are men, and you go like, well, yeah, but 95% of the perpetrators of this violence are men. So
exactly.
Let's talk about that as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay.
I think it's also.
Go on. Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to add, people are not forming communities around addressing this problem. So it's usually finger pointing. But then, for example, is there a movement that supports men to get custody of children? Because that would be something they're interested in. Is there like a support group or a care system for men, organizing themselves the same way women have done around it? So yes, men, there are issues the problems that men have, but we cannot only bring up our issues when it's only being talked about, when other issues come up, like, gender equality and whatnot. So I think just forming communities around these issues is very important. Just like Anne Hazel said.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thanks. Thanks very much.
I think we'll need to close in here. We're out of time. So thank you very much for the great discussion. I would just say to anyone who's listening and who might have been raising similar questions as the person we've been kind of discussing here on the live stream, that if you are genuinely looking for answers to these questions, then this is what we work on. This is what we do in here as well, and you are very invited to come and check out the work that we do, either in the Men Engage Alliance, of which we are all associated with, or my organization Pathforge, Alex's organization Men Against Violence. And then if you want to follow these sort of discussions, please tune in to the other work that we're doing. And like I say, there are absolutely alternatives to the Manosphere out there that also really address those issues that men are struggling with. Well, we hope that you will also help us amplify those voices and perhaps seek for answers that also help men grow in a way that promotes equality and fairness for all. So thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much, everyone, for participating. And
see you next time.
See you next time.
When is the next time? Are you going